It's a great honor for me to open this Positive Economy Forum in Hiroshima. This is the second year that we are here, and I hope we will be here for many years to come to develop cooperation between the global action that we try to develop around the world to make more people aware of the need to work for next generation, because it's only when you work for next generation that you work for yourself. Nothing is more important than working for your children or grandchildren if you want to have your own selfish future safe. That's the real secret of life. It's only in taking care of next generations that you assure your own future. We do that around the world by developing a lot of activities in trying to develop what we call positive economy, positive companies, which are working in the interest of next generation by developing a sustainable society, socially and ecologically sustainable, and also with a social and ecological governance. You need to have these three pillars: social, ecological, and democratic society in order to be sustainable for the next generation. And no country, no world is perfect on that. But all of us, we have a lot of progress to do. And if we want to succeed, we must do this progress as much as we can. And it's a great honor for me to be here to launch this forum where we have such an amazing group of people coming from around the world: Europe, US, Africa, Eastern Europe, and of course, Japan. And I'm very proud to have this event and to launch this cooperation between Positive Economy Forum and Hiroshima as a city and as a forum for peace. Because as we said this morning, peace is a condition for positive economy, as well as positive economy is a condition for peace. That's why it's a great honor for me to give the floor to the governor of Hiroshima.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Jacques Attali, for your kind introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hirohiko Izaki, governor of Hiroshima Prefecture. And it's a great honor to be here and speak to you at the opening of the Positive Economy Forum. And let me begin by first extending my heartfelt welcome to Positive Planet President, again, Mr. Jacques Attali, and to all the distinguished participants, speakers, and panelists. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone to Hiroshima. And also, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to take part in the 2019 World Business Conference for World Peace and the Positive Economy Forum. Well, I would like to start a little bit with how I met with Mr. Attali. It was in Davos 2018. And at that time, I was feeling that in view of the increasingly uncertain geopolitical climate, Hiroshima Prefecture needed to crank up its ongoing initiatives. And we were building a mechanism for the sustained support of peace activities by bringing together talents and know-how, information, funds, and other resources from around the world. We were trying to advance global peace activities by building momentum for peace in the business community and widely promoting the importance of diverse stakeholder participation in peace activities. And at Davos, I was keen to find as many who would sympathize to our cause as possible, as well as partners willing to join us in leading this cause. I was therefore delighted and honored to meet with Mushatali, who was willing to work with us. And Mushatali, as you all know, has established global reach and credibility as a philanthropist activities involved in aid for developing countries, and as the author of, this is a challenge for me to pronounce. I'm sorry if I made a mistake, but it's Vivement après demain. Thank you. I'm not a French school person, so I apologize for that. But, which appealed for global action in steering the world away from the worst-case scenarios. And this led to the engagement of Mushatali as keynote speaker at last year's World Business Conference for World Peace. And to recap some of the points made in his speech, he argued that, if I may quote, while market globalization has progressed, democratic rule of law has only reached a limited number of regions. And this has tended to leave countries facing issues in isolation, encouraging the rise of nationalism. Moreover, pursuit of self-interest has set the tone for foreign strategies in many countries. The best solution to this is for countries and people to prioritize benefits to future generations. Countries need to act for the benefit of the next generation. Looking 30 years into the future and envisaging a positive peace that can last. Peace cannot be achieved without taking certain measures, and sound measures can achieve long-term peace. And at the closing of the World Business Conference for World Peace, Mushatali also commented that the conference was only a starting point, and that it was crucially important for Hiroshima to maintain its focus on peace, as it has done over the post-war decades, and to bring the notions of peace, positive action, and positive economy together. He also expressed his eagerness to help develop a positive economy in Japan and to make Hiroshima a wellspring of positive and global ideas. Following last year's World Business Conference for World Peace, Hiroshima Prefecture exchanged a memorandum of understanding with the Global Positive Forum headed by Mushatali. It was agreed that Hiroshima Prefecture and the Positive Planet would work together to better contribute to the achievement of nuclear weapons-free, peaceful international society, and that to this end, the two parties would work toward co-hosting in Hiroshima both the Positive Economy Forum and the World Business Conference for World Peace, beginning from this year. Today's Positive Economy Forum is the first to be held in Hiroshima and in Japan and in Asia, I understand, under this agreement. The goal of the Positive Economy Forum is to spread ideas of building a society capable of leaving future generations with a better world. Past forums have been held in France, Italy, Russia, and the present one, again, is first in Asia. The 2019 forum hosted by Le Havre, France, saw an active exchanges of messages and ideas by diverse panelists and speakers from the government, the business world, and the nonprofit sector and the arts. This edition of the Positive Economy Forum is being held under the theme of Positive Economy, a Path to Peace Building a better world for future generations. Our panelists and speakers will include Mushjat Atali, President of Positive Planet, Professor Josepha Laroche from the Université Paris and Panthéon Sorbonne, and political cartoonist Plantu. And ICANN co-founder Mr. Tilman Ruff, who gave us his keynote speech yesterday. We'll also return to the podium for the discussion with Hiroshima atomic bomb survivor Ms. Keiko Ogura. I'm sure the forum will prove inspiring and eye-opening for all of us. And let me close by thanking everyone involved in the conference for their generous support and cooperation, and by expressing my best wishes to all of you present today. So thank you very much. And I'm very much looking forward to today's sessions.
Thank you very much, Jacques Attali, Mr. Governor, for this introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cédric Bécher, and I will be very happy to serve as your moderator for this afternoon's session and this first Positive Economy Forum in Japan, here in Hiroshima. Thank you very much for being here and for taking the time to listen to our speakers today. First, to discuss how we can build a better world for future generations. This is very much what we're going to talk about this afternoon. And second, also, to explore how all stakeholders, including businesses, NGOs, local governments, etc., can and must contribute to that vision of building a better world for future generations. And this is very much what the World Business Conference for World Peace is all about. And I really would like to thank again the governor of Hiroshima, Yuzaki-san, for welcoming us all today here in this very unique place on Earth. So in a few minutes, I will open the floor to all our distinguished panelists and speakers, coming from very diverse personal and professional backgrounds, like you will see. And I think it's very interesting to listen to all of them. I know that they are willing to share their personal commitment for peace and for future generations. And I would like to thank them all for traveling here to Hiroshima. Altruism, which is a key value for positive economy, altruism towards future generations, is a very powerful vehicle for peace. And this is, again, what we would like to discuss this afternoon. Our forum will be organized and structured around two main moments, two main parts. The first part will focus on war and the different aspects of conflicts. How can they be eradicated? And the second part of our forum this afternoon will focus on the topic of international cooperation, international dialogue at the service of global peace. So let's start, if you will, with the first sequence of our conversations on global peace and positive economy this afternoon. Last week, as you know, Abiy Ahmed received the Peace Nobel Prize for his efforts in the resolution of the Ethiopian and Eritrean conflict. Beyond the individual prize, the Nobel Prize also highlights collective barriers against whom the international community has to fight. But the question is, more than a spotlight, can the Nobel be a catalyst for the world peace? And to try to answer this question, I am very pleased to introduce our first speaker, Mrs. Josepha Laroche, who will deliver a keynote about the Nobel diplomacy, a transnational contribution to world peace. So Mrs. Laroche is a French political scientist. She's specializing in international relations. She's a professor at the Sorbonne University in Paris, and she also served as a judge assessor representing the Office of the High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, on the Refugee Appeal Commission. She will tell more in a minute, but her research is focused on the process of globalization and global governance. And she also created the Center for Transnational Studies and Research, And lastly, she's the director of a collection of books. She will tell you more in a minute. Please join me on stage, Josefa Laroche, and it's an honor having you here today. So the floor is yours for 15 minutes. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. Jacques Attali, and his Institute of Positive Economy to have invited me to belong to this symposium dedicated to world peace and positive economy. My contribution is entitled The Noble Diplomacy, a Transnational Contribution to World Peace. I would like just to sum up in some minutes, very briefly, some historical and main points. Concerning the background of the Nobel Prize, I would particularly like to emphasize the reason why this global system was created by the tycoon Alfred Nobel. In his quest for a distinctive mechanism to pacify the world, this Swedish industrial chemist and philanthropist and also captain of industry established in his will on November the 27th of 1895 5 annual prizes: physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and a peace prize. In this way, he led the foundation of a purposefully pacifist and cosmopolitan international system of rewards. Furthermore, he also detailed that the Peace Prize was to be awarded by the Norwegian Parliament, the Storting, only and presented in Oslo in order to honor that country and that institution. In 1901, the Nobel Foundation was finally established and was able to take shape. Year after year, decade after decade, this structure has forged a powerful tool in favor of knowledge and global peace. To celebrate this, the 300th birthday of the Bank of Sweden, this financial institution decided in 1968 to finance a new prize, which was from then on to be embedded in the previous global award system. This was the prize in economics, in memory of Alfred Nobel, which has been awarded on the same basis as the others since this date. More than a century later, we have no choice but to notice that this global framework remains in force and stronger than ever, as stronger than it was at its beginnings. The policy of allocation of the Nobel Prizes has sought and sometimes succeeded for over a century to contain the brutalization of the world. In doing so, a coherent diplomacy has emerged by which the Nobel system intervenes globally on the world stage to impose the irreducibility of values such as peace, freedom, human rights, tolerance, and democracy. I would like to say some words about state ranking. As you know, only individuals or institutions, such as the United Nations, for instance, can receive a Nobel Prize. This fact, however, has not prevented states from regarding this distinction as an international benchmark for gauging their scientific level, their cultural reach, and their political stature. Nowadays, states are obliged to recognize the symbolic power of the Nobel institution, its legitimacy to evaluate their intellectual potential, as well as to attribute a more or less prestigious rank to them and to classify them. In other words, they are more or less ranking by the Nobel diplomacy. Consequently, the Nobel system of prize has become a constitutive element of their power, one with which the international scene has to count. I mean that the Nobel institution has been in a position to introduce, to impose on the international scene a non-state and efficient transnational diplomacy dedicated to world peace. Let us recall that the Nobel system is a comprehensive system that has developed over time this non-state diplomacy, which has created, supports, protects, and enshrines certain political processes in order to uphold its priorities and agenda on the world stage. That's the reason why I will try to answer as clearly as possible to this main question: how such an international political configuration has been possible, or to say in other words, on what kind of means is this transnational diplomacy based? Such an international political configuration is possible because a normative and symbolic power of intervention is constantly acting. This normative and symbolic power of intervention has been forged year after year. It is based on the prestige attached to this very special device, this international system of gratification invented by Alfred Nobel. It has not ceased to grow decade after decade, to the point where laureates have become, over the years, synonyms of global excellence, exemplary intellect, and first and foremost, world consciousness. In fact, we are facing an international caricature, a transnational elite, which is also organized as a transnational network of fame. It is composed of eminent personalities deemed to bear exceptional qualities, with the latter simultaneously social, moral, and intellectual resources. Members of this elite have reached the point where they are sometimes attributed quasi-thaumaturgic powers, a precious concept designed by the French historian Marc Bloch. Consequently, their words are performative, in the sense meant by the English linguist John Austin explained in his book, How to Do Things with Words. It means that when they talk, they are able to change the world, just in using words, institutional words, because they possess a performative authority, a special and performative utterance, which can generate practical effects, because it holds in itself the possibility to modify reality due to their symbolic and institutional statutes. Nobel laureates who embody this transnational diplomacy use the legitimacy acquired in their professional and specific field of intervention or in their social life to claim to embody universality and universal values. It is a kind of a symbolic and successful jumping, a great symbolic deal. At the beginning of this process, they are individuals, just individuals, able to mobilize on the global scene all their wealth of knowledge, prestige, and fame to put into practice a reformative representation of political action, contesting to the states their diplomatic monopoly. They are in a position to intervene on main issues of international matters with such a determining way of doing that they are sometimes able to challenge states with efficiency. For instance, during the Cold War or in some regional conflicts. But of course, this kind of intervention might not be possible without the process of nobilization, which consecrates them and gives them a quasi-sacred status. Origin of honor, the Nobel Prize allocated to them distinguishes them from other people, from simple people. It distinguishes them from common people. The Nobel candidate have been transformed from simple private individuals into emblematic figures of global reputation, which is an integral part of the Nobel diplomacy. It's the key element of the Nobel diplomacy. This is precisely this symbolic worth which enabled them to assert themselves during more than 1 century as the official spokespersons of noble causes, as the defenders of the right of people to self-determination facing the raison d'etat, to the point of becoming more and more often non-professional diplomats, but efficient ones. Thanks to the process of Nobelization, the Nobel institution succeeds to become a defining actor of norms and prescriber of good practices. It behaves as if it were in charge of a universal power of proposals and surveillance, even of criticism towards the states. Afterwards, the laureates can perform with their own resources, that is to say, legitimacy, knowledge, and fame. They can intervene on the political ground where they claim to assume a duty of watchfulness. In this case, I would like to underline we are facing an innovative diplomacy, which designs norms and gives itself the means to deal with international issues considered as priority for its own agenda. It also appears as an interventionist diplomacy which interferes into the internal affairs of states, into interstate relations, regional and international disputes, or armed conflicts. Finally, today, an unusual diplomacy is affirming itself powerful enough to be able to exercise a performative authority on behalf of world peace, because this diplomacy seeks to state the forms of a world scene without any brutalization and to design the future international scene. It erupts more and more frequently into high politics, thus determining a new mode of enunciation politics. In this respect, the institution and its laureates consider themselves as the strongest defenders of human rights against the raison d'etat by coming across as a universal power of criticism. They intervene more and more often on the international arena, whether addressing societal issues or managing more directly political issues. In doing so, they do not hesitate to interfere in the internal affairs of states or to engage in international regulations. They deploy their actions in all directions to promote a policy which they label in the name of knowledge or common property, global commons, of which they proclaim themselves the guardians. In conclusion, I would say, thanks to the instrumentality of the Nobel institutions, worldwide and powerful reputation, a transnational Nobel diplomacy has emerged, which is a non-state one, a private one, but an efficient one. Over time, this tool has become increasingly strong, powerful, consistent, and able to multiply its diplomatic interference with a high degree of legitimacy and efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Laroche. And thank you also for the great exercise of being on time. I know how difficult it can be, so thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Thank you for your accurate and very interesting analysis of the Nobel diplomacy. Listening to you, I am wondering whether we should create a positive economy Nobel Prize. That could be a recommendation. Or we could also think about new types of awards, which could be maybe created here in Hiroshima. Why not? To distinguish young leaders or people who are working for peace. Let me ask you one question. This Nobel system which you described is a long-term, well-established tool. What would be your dream as a next step for future generations? If we had to scale up, what would be the next step? I'm not saying that we should replace the Nobel with something else, of course, but what would be the next tool or the next initiative which we could launch to progress towards world peace for future generations?
I think it's better to reinforce a Nobel system, the global Nobel system, and not to create other prizes.
Mm-hmm. Not maybe
I don't think it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe trying to support young people who are active, maybe not without waiting for the end of their career or...
It's not only the end of the career. If you have a look to the prize which have been attributed, mm-hmm. you can notice sometimes very young people and, for instance, in literature, people who are at the beginning of their career,
okay.
and it's the same with Nobel Prize in Peace Prize. It's not the end of the career. It was the beginning. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was the end of the career, which was distinguished, but it's logical because the Nobel system was very young and
okay.
has to give
recognition
to recognize persons, but now it's
okay.
sometimes it's the contrary.
Okay, thank you so much for your contribution today, and we can greet Professor Laroche, and thank you again for your time.